Why is the strongest country in the world so desperate to capture this frozen piece of land in the Arctic? Imagine yourself living peacefully in your house. Then suddenly your neighbor knocks your door. You go and open it, and he says, "I am going to buy your house. And if you refuse, I will capture it." That sounds horrific, right? That's exactly what the USA said to Greenland. In this video, we are going to break down everything about this Greenland crisis, its history, how it started, and what could happen next. Let's begin. Chapter 1, Greenland's history. Before we talk about the crisis, you need to understand what Greenland actually is. Greenland has been inhabited for at least 4,500 years by people who migrated from what is now Canada. These were the ancestors of today's Inuit people, tough, skilled hunters who built their entire lives around the frozen Arctic. Then came the Vikings. Around 982 CE, a Norseman named Eric the Red, who had already been exiled from Norway for manslaughter, then exiled again from Iceland for another violent dispute, sailed west looking for a new home. He spent 3 years exploring this frozen land, and when he returned to Iceland, he called it Greenland, a clever marketing trick to attract settlers to a place mostly covered in ice. It worked. He gathered a fleet of 25 ships with around 700 settlers. Only 14 ships survived the journey, but those that arrived built farms, churches, and communities that lasted over 500 years. Then they vanished. The last written record of the Norse settlers is a wedding in 1408. After that, silence. Historians believe a combination of the Little Ice Age, the collapse of the walrus ivory trade, and failure to adapt to Arctic conditions like the Inuit did led to their disappearance. In 1721, Denmark sent a missionary expedition to Greenland, found no Norse settlers, and instead began colonizing the Inuit people. Denmark has controlled Greenland ever since. Today, Greenland is an autonomous territory of Denmark. It runs its own government, but depends on Denmark for defense and a big chunk of its budget. Chapter 2, How this crisis started from the 1800s to today. America's obsession with Greenland didn't start with Trump. It goes back 160 years. The U.S. first discussed buying Greenland from Denmark in 1867, then again in 1910. Then secretly in 1946, Denmark rejected every offer. During World War II, the U.S. occupied Greenland to stop Nazi Germany from using it as a base to attack North America. After the war ended, America never fully left. By 1948, Denmark had given up trying to get the U.S. military out. A 1951 treaty gave America a formal right to maintain military bases in Greenland. At its peak, around 10,000 U.S. military personnel were stationed there. Fast forward to 2019, Trump publicly says America should buy Greenland. Denmark's prime minister calls it absurd. Trump cancels his Denmark visit in anger. Story dies. Then in 2025, Trump comes back harder. He stated that for purposes of national security and freedom throughout the world, the ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity. Then in early 2026, it became a full international crisis. Trump refused to rule out military force to take Greenland and threatened a 25% import tax on EU goods unless Denmark handed it over. For the first time in its history, the Danish Defense Intelligence Service listed the United States as a potential threat to national security. Chapter 3, Why is the USA so desperate? 3 main reasons. So why does the most powerful country on Earth want this frozen island so badly? 3 reasons, and they are all about power. Reason 1, military control. Greenland sits directly between North America and Russia. Any missile fired from Russia toward America flies over or near Greenland. Any bomber, submarine, or satellite crossing the Arctic passes close to it. Former U.S. war plans actually listed Greenland as a territory America would seize and fortify in a hypothetical major war. Owning Greenland means America can see threats coming faster, build more radar systems, and respond quicker. It is the ultimate early warning position on the planet. Reason 2, Arctic shipping routes. The Arctic ice is melting. New sea routes are opening up that cut the shipping distance between Asia and Europe dramatically compared to the traditional Suez Canal route. A third route near the North Pole could reduce fuel costs by 40%. Greenland sits right at the entrance to these routes. Controlling Greenland means controlling who uses them. Reason 3, rare earth minerals. This is the one most people miss. China currently controls around 60% of global rare earth mining and around 91% of refining. These minerals go into your phone, electric cars, military jets, satellites, everything modern technology runs on. America is dangerously dependent on China for these. Greenland sits on top of massive rare earth deposits that could break that dependency. That is worth more to America than any price tag. Chapter 4, The measures taken against USA. The world didn't stay quiet. Greenland said no loudly. All 5 parties of the Greenlandic Parliament published a joint declaration. We do not want to be Americans, we want to be Greenlanders. 85% of Greenlanders oppose an American takeover. Their message was clear: we are open for business, not for sale. Denmark and 8 NATO allies deployed military forces to defend Greenland under Operation Arctic Endurance. Denmark announced a 14.6 billion krona plan to boost Arctic defense. Europe threatened to suspend the EU-US trade agreement and considered placing sanctions on the United States. Even inside America, only 8% of Americans supported any invasion of Greenland, with 73% opposed. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson called Trump's threats completely inappropriate. Then Trump backed down for now. At the World Economic Forum in Davos in January 2026, Trump announced a framework of a future deal after meeting NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, dropping his tariff threats and ruling out military action. But Greenland and Denmark made one thing clear: no deal would ever alter the sovereignty of Greenland. Chapter 5. Potential disadvantages to the world. This crisis didn't just affect Greenland. It sent shockwaves through the entire global order. NATO could fracture. Experts warned that a U.S. annexation of Greenland would effectively end the alliance. For Europeans, America was no longer seen as a reliable partner, but as a predatory power willing to threaten its own allies. Global markets wobbled, equities slipped, treasury yields rose, and gold edged higher as fears of a US-EU trade war spread. The trust between Western allies was damaged, possibly permanently. Analysts said Trump's brinkmanship destroyed much of the political space in Europe for those arguing the West should stay united. And while all this was happening, Russia and China watched quietly and smiled. Every crack in NATO is a gift to Moscow and Beijing. This crisis handed both adversaries exactly what they wanted without firing a single shot. Chapter 6. Outro and the big question. So where does this leave us? Greenland is still Danish. Trump backed down. The crisis cooled for now, but nothing is truly resolved. America still wants control of Greenland's minerals and military positioning. Greenland still wants full independence one day. Denmark is spending billions to defend Arctic territory it has held for 300 years, and Russia and China are both expanding their Arctic presence every single year. The most likely outcome analysts predict is one that nominally preserves Danish sovereignty, but sees Greenland slowly cede significant economic and military authority to the United States. The ice is melting, the stakes are rising, and the world's most powerful country has made it clear it wants this island. Now here is the question I want to leave you with. If America ever did try to take Greenland by force, what would actually happen? Think about it. You would have the U.S. military against Denmark and 8 NATO allies that include France, Germany, the UK, and Norway. NATO's own Article 5 says an attack on one member is an attack on all, which means America would technically be at war with its own alliance. NATO would collapse overnight. Russia and China would move immediately, filling every power vacuum left behind. The global order as we know it would end. And all of this over a frozen island of 56,000 people, the most powerful country on Earth threatening its closest allies over a piece of ice. That is not strength, that is desperation. If you made it this far, you now know more about this crisis than 99% of people. Drop a comment. Do you think America will ever get Greenland? Like and subscribe if this was worth your time.